I'm Jacob Courtwright, and this is The Locker Room. What's going on, everybody? Jacob Courtwright here, coming to you live from studio. So happy to have you joining me today. Before we get started, as always, make sure you follow The Locker Room on Twitter, TLR with Jacob, on Instagram, The Locker Room Podcast 615, on Facebook, The Locker Room Host Jacob, and on TikTok, The Locker Room 22. Also visit our friends at FNX Fitness for all your supplement and health needs. That is fnxfit.com, fnxfit.com. Use the promo code TLRHOST, that is TLRHOST, for our gift to you for 15% off. Now let's get this amazing episode started. All right, well, let's do something new today. We are going to do something called Vacation or Staycation. This is where we really look at the NFL playoffs as we know it after Week 9. Now, Week 9 was a big week for a lot of teams, but I think the playoff picture is finally starting to mold itself into what we probably will know in the playoffs this year. All right, so vacation or staycation? Staycation, the Pittsburgh Steelers. They are going to be in the playoffs. The Pittsburgh Steelers are the only undefeated team in the NFL. That's right, 8-0. When Big Ben came back, I don't think a lot of people projected the Pittsburgh Steelers to really snap back this quickly into Super Bowl form, but their defense is top-notch. Their offense with Big Ben leading the helm is incredible. They had a tough one against Dallas, but here's the thing. People were really hard on the Pittsburgh Steelers. When you're playing a desperate team like the Jets, like the Cowboys, you're going to get a lot of gutsy performances because they're fighting for their jobs. They're fighting for their future. So we saw a hard-fought game. The Pittsburgh Steelers came out on top late in the half as, of course, Big Ben threw a late touchdown. But they are a half game ahead of the Kansas City Chiefs for home field advantage. The Pittsburgh Steelers are definitely in the playoffs. Let's talk about the team that they're a half game ahead of. The Kansas City Chiefs, a definite playoff lock. So Kansas City at 8-1 right now cannot take their foot off the gas because they have a lot tougher schedule than the Pittsburgh Steelers do throughout the rest of the year. So if they really want the number one overall spot, the home field advantage, they've got to really kick it into gear in the second half and hope that the Pittsburgh Steelers find a way to lose a couple games here or there. The Kansas City Chiefs had one bad Sunday against the Oakland Raiders. And here's the thing. The Chiefs are an incredible team until they take their foot off the gas and try and play it safe. The Chiefs have always got to be in attack mode because the second they go into throttle mode, we saw this on this past Sunday as well from this team. They tend to go a ton of 3-and-outs. Their defense tends to give up a lot of yards. So they've got to be a little bit better and just keep their foot completely on the gas this year because that's how they play. This team is on its way for a staycation. They're on their way to defend the title yet again. Staycation here, of course. The Cleveland Browns, vacation all the way. The Browns right now stand at 5-3. They're on the outskirts of making it to the playoffs right now. Here's the deal. The Browns, I was high on them in the first couple weeks of the season, but they continually fall back into what we all know them as, the Cleveland Browns. Baker Mayfield's not the quarterback for the future, I don't think. He is not efficient enough. He's not good enough. OBJ, I think, has played his last game for the Cleveland Browns. They're gone. This team, I just can't put faith in a team like this to go into the playoffs or to even make a run towards the end of the playoffs. I think they missed the playoffs by 3 or 4 games. I just can't continually put my faith in this Browns team. Defense has been really shaky for them. Baker Mayfield, probably one of the most inconsistent players on their offense. OBJ in and out of the lineup. Njoku's been requesting a trade all year long. Jarvis Landry is not the wide receiver that he used to be in Miami. This team is on its way for a nice vacation to the Cancuns, maybe, question mark, if they're open because of this whole COVID mess. But they are on their way to a Disney cruise. They're on their way to something because they're not making the playoffs. The Buffalo Bills staycation. The Buffalo Bills are going to be in the playoffs. Here's the deal. At the beginning of the year, when Cam Newton came to the Patriots, I thought the Patriots would yet again up-top that division. I thought the Patriots would yet again put the Buffalo Bills in their place. But at the end of the day, the Patriots are horrible. No one really expected the Patriots to be this bad. No one really expected Cam Newton to not be this good. and they're down to the reality of they're just not a good football team. So in that case, the Buffalo Bills have this division, sitting at 7-2, first place in the AFC East. The Bills lost to the Chiefs, who, of course, not only are ahead of them by a full game, but are the defending Super Bowl champions. They also lost to the Titans. The Titans really, that was a game that shocked a lot of people for the Tennessee Titans. The Titans are a playoff team as well. We're going to talk about them in just a second. But, I mean, their two losses come from two very good teams. They definitely have a 3-win lead over the Dolphins, and I think they're going to protect that pretty easily. They're going to be locked into this number one seed, I'm pretty sure, the rest of the year. I just see the Buffalo Bills as a very good playoff team. They have a good defense. Josh Allen has finally come back around to being Josh Allen. He had another 400-yard performance of the year against a very good Seattle Seahawks team, and I like what I'm seeing from Josh. He's a little bit more consistent the last 2 weeks. He's finally settling back in. You could see he was flustered with the Kansas City Chiefs and the Titans, and that's the way to get young quarterbacks out of a rhythm. Now that they're back into a rhythm, you see their defense playing great. You see their offense snapping on all cylinders, especially against Seattle. This team is going to be in the playoffs. They're locked at this number one seed for the rest of the year. This next team is pretty interesting to me. The Indianapolis Colts. Vacation, staycation. Staycation. I think the Colts make the playoffs. Here's the deal. Phillip Rivers isn't playing great, but he's playing good enough. Their defense is one of the tops in the NFL in takeaways. They're always in games. They just got to get into a little bit better offensive rhythm, especially getting T.Y. Hilton involved and Jack Doyle involved will really spruce up this offense. Jonathan Taylor's been a great addition for them. I think the Indianapolis Colts have the pieces to make the playoffs this year. I just foresee them at least splitting with the Titans. And here's the deal. If they split with the Titans, they have a very good shot at this division title. I said that at the very beginning of the year. So the Colts, I think, are going to be in the playoffs. It's going to be a tough road for them as they have a very tough schedule. They have a tough game against the Tennessee Titans this coming week, not only in a division rival, not only at Nissan Stadium in Nashville, but against a Titans team that maybe found their mojo on Sunday in a win against the Bears. If not their offense, their defense. So it's going to be a tough game for them, but this is one of those division rivals where it's going to be a telltale sign of who's going to really take this number one spot. Are the Titans going to continually push through, or are the Colts going to try and top this division? I like the Colts this year. Colts in the playoffs. And the very team that the Indianapolis Colts will be playing on Sunday, the Tennessee Titans, they are a playoff lock in my eyes. Without a doubt, it's 6-2, their first place in the AFC South. They rebounded, of course, against the Bears after dropping 2 consecutive games and a 5-0 start, which was shocking and to say the least for most Titans fans. But they have a matchup against the Colts, which is very important, probably the most important game the Tennessee Titans have played thus far this year. They already have the tiebreaker with the Colts standing at 2-0 in the division. So if that's the case, then they've got to keep another game lead on the Indianapolis Colts. That way, at the end of the year, if the Colts take them when they go to Lucas Oil Stadium, then it's not going to be that big of a deal because they'll still hold the division lead. This is going to be a good, hard-fought Sunday matchup for the Colts and Titans, so I hope you're excited to watch that game, Titans fans and Colts fans, because this is always a great game when they get together. But I just see it as a lock. The Tennessee Titans are in. I don't see a way around that. They are going to make the playoffs again. Another team in the hunt, the Denver Broncos, vacation. The Mile High Club is going to be a mile high in the air, smoking weed on their way to whatever destination they want to. Because they're not making the playoffs. I like Drew Lock a lot. I like this offense a lot. Jerry Jeudy's just got to grow into it a little bit more. He fumbles way too much, doesn't have great ball security. Their backfield's been a mess with Melvin Gordon. Philip Lindsay, very inconsistent, has been hurt halfway through the year off and on. Drew Lock, he's been hurt halfway in and out of the lineup throughout the entire year. He had a good game on Sunday, but I just don't foresee this Denver Broncos team really getting it together. Their offense is okay, but they have way too many injuries. Noah Fant was injured on Sunday. Their defense is just not good enough. Even though the addition of Jarrell Casey has helped out that defensive line, missing Von Miller, you can really tell, has put a giant dent into that Denver Broncos. But for sure, this is a lock. I can almost guarantee 100%. They are on their way to Cancun. They are on their way to wherever they want to go because they are not making the playoffs. Next up, we've got the Las Vegas Raiders, of course, 5-3 in the AFC, 3-2 in conference play as well. They have a win over the Browns. They also play the Colts and the Dolphins later in December. This one's tough because they have had some convincing wins, of course, over the Super Bowl champs, and they've had some convincing losses where you can tell that they have a lot to work on. I am going to go playoffs. I like what I'm seeing from the Las Vegas Raiders. I think Derek Carr is doing a very nice job. Josh Jacobs in the backfield makes them very dynamic and allows them to open up. Henry Ruggs has been efficient enough. Darren Waller has been efficient enough. So I like what I'm seeing on the offensive side. Defensively, they're a mess, but they're also flying around the field, and that's a major step up and a major factor as to why they are the record that they are. They're just craziness. If you watch how they play, they do not have a single formation that they stay in. They go from a 4-3 to a 4-4 to a 5-3. I've never seen so many different game styles in one singular defense. So with all that being said, I think the Las Vegas Raiders pull it out in a close one, but I say Las Vegas Raiders are in the playoffs. Let's see, we've got only a few more teams left here in the AFC. The Cincinnati Bengals, vacation. I really don't have to say much more. Vacation, vacation, vacation. Joe Burrow's going on vacation. The Cincinnati Bengals are going on vacation. I don't know if you heard me, but they're going on vacation. They're not making the playoffs. There's no way they're going to make the playoffs. They're much improved. Do not get me wrong. T. Higgins, Joe Burrow, Mixon, Giovanni Bernard, who's had a great year actually. Their defense has done okay considering what they have given up in the past. But offensively, I think they've had a major step up. I love Joe Burrow. I love what I'm seeing from their young offense, T. Higgins especially, Tyler Boyd especially. But at the end of the day, they are what they are. They are going on vacation to Cabo, probably. I know that Joe Burrow talked about that being one of his favorite vacation spots. But this is a lock. This is the most sure thing that I think I will ever say on the show. The Cincinnati Bengals will not make the playoffs. Lastly, we have the Miami Dolphins sitting at 5-3. They had 2 straight victories with Tua Tagovailoa at the quarterback position. They had a very good win against the Cardinals team that is pretty darn good this year, actually. They're barely ahead of the Browns in the standings, but here's the deal. I trust the Miami Dolphins over the Browns any day of the week. I'm going Miami in the playoffs. They make that final spot. I think that they get it done. Now, don't get me wrong. They will not go far into the playoffs at all. The competition's just way too high up, especially when they make it to the playoffs. But at the end of the day, like I said, I trust them over the Browns. The Browns just aren't convincing enough. They don't have enough stability at the quarterback position. If Tua can stay healthy, I think they're good enough to make the playoffs. They are not going on vacation. This is staycation for the Miami Dolphins, and I know that's crazy for me to even be saying right now. It's hard that I'm saying that, but I like what I'm seeing. Their defense is playing top 3 the last 2 weeks. What? Exactly. Mark that down. Top 3 in the last 2 weeks. Now, I don't think that is going to be a continual trend that they're going to be in the top 5 statistically in numbers in defense, but I do believe their defense is getting better. Their offense is looking a lot better. Tua had a much better game on Sunday, over 200-plus yards, couple touchdowns. So, Miami Dolphins, you are making my last playoff spot. So, those are my playoff team, my vacation, staycation teams. And the reason I bring up those teams specifically, because those are the only teams I think at this point could even try and make a playoff push. Like the Cincinnati Bengals still have a lot of football left to play, and they really could make a push, but at the end of the day, I just don't see the Cincinnati Bengals getting there. But like I said, teams like the New England Patriots, the Chargers, the Houston Texans, the Jaguars, the Jets, those are guaranteed vacation. I'm not shocked if they've already booked their tickets. Like, those teams I have no faith in, no trust in. The teams that I listed, even though I said vacation, staycation, they still have a puncher's chance to make the playoffs. Like the Bengals still have a puncher's chance. So at the end of the day, that's how I'm setting this up for those of you who might be confused why I've left out a lot of teams. There's just not enough football left for those teams that I named to really make up the difference. I mean, you have the New England Patriots are 3-5, but I don't trust them further than I can throw them and further than Cam Newton can throw, and that's not that far. The Chargers are 2-6, Texans 2-6, Jacksonville 1-7, and the Jets 0-9. Like, those are teams that, in my opinion, have no absolute shot at making the playoffs at all. The other teams do, I just don't trust them, and that's why I put them in the vacation spot. All right, now let's move on down to the NFC playoff picture. My first lock in the playoffs, and this team had a performance on Sunday night with a 38-3 victory. The New Orleans Saints, they're one of the most consistent teams in football. 6-2, first place in the NFC South. The Saints have swept the Bucs thus far this year. That puts them in the driver's seat, not only in the division, but it puts them over the Seahawks for the critical top seed and home field advantage. With a 5-1 conference record, with the Packers being their only loss this year, this team is going to be in the playoffs. You can put it down almost every single year. And Drew Brees is doing this with an offense, with a wide receiver core that has been not only injured the entire year, and I know because I have Michael frickin' Thomas on my fantasy team, but inconsistent. He has not had somebody that can catch a football literally all year, and he's still managing to get major wins. Their defense seemed to just shut Tom Brady down. It was 3-pick Sunday for Tom Brady. And at the end of the day, they're just one of the most consistent teams all the way around. Sean Payton always has his team ready to go. This is a playoff lock, not a vacation, but a staycation here. Let's see, we've got the Chicago Bears, 5-4 thus far this year. The Bears have struggled at the quarterback position mainly. Here's what I'm going to say about the Bears. If Mitchell Trubisky takes back over at the quarterback position. Now, here's what people also need to understand. Mitchell Trubisky was 3-0 before he got benched. Nick Foles, I love Nick Foles. He's a great guy. But anywhere outside of Philadelphia, Nick Foles sucks. He sucks. Guys, he sucks. So I never have faith in Nick Foles because you don't know what you're going to get with that man from Sunday to Sunday. If Mitchell Trubisky comes back into this lineup, I project that the Chicago Bears will make the playoffs. I do. I truly believe that the Chicago Bears will make the playoffs with Mitchell Trubisky at helm. If Mitchell Trubisky would have played in the Colts-Titans game, I think you would have seen a Bears victory. I'm not saying I love Mitchell Trubisky. I'm not saying he's the future for the Bears. But I'm saying that he brings them a lot more dynamic offense than Nick Foles. So Mitchell Trubisky comes back. If he plays and starts, this team's going to the playoffs. But as they sit right now, because that's how I have to call it, vacation for the Chicago Bears. With Nick Foles at the helm, this defense is always going to have to play 38 minutes a game. Nick Foles is not good enough. He can't make the outside throws. He can't push a ball deep enough down the field. They have too many offensive players that can really create space and can really be a quarterback's best friend for the Bears to really have this bad of a offense in the league. So I'm going to go vacation here because as of right now, that's what it's going to be. Vacation if Mitchell Trubisky does not take over. Next up, the Seattle Seahawks playoffs. I mean, this is a staycation all the way. As long as Russell Wilson is the quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks, they will always make the playoffs. They are very much so like the Saints. They are always consistent. Now, sometimes that consistency is not good, like their defense that gives up over 500 yards a game, it seems like, to everybody. But they're at least consistent on the offensive side of the football. They can put up some points. Russell Wilson is playing not only like the league MVP, he did take a bump in that category, in my opinion, on Sunday with a couple turnovers that were crucial. I think Patrick Mahomes edges him out right now. But Russell Wilson is still in that MVP conversation. They're 6-2, first place in the NFC West. Not only is this division tough, but the Seahawks are still getting some separation from the 49ers, which is very, very important. The Cardinals actually handed them their first loss. And their only loss in the NFC so far. The Cardinals are a surprising team to a lot of people, and that was like a little guy battle with Russell and Kyler Murray. That was just a fun game to watch. But after after all is said and done, I think you're going to be able to guarantee a playoff spot for the Seattle Seahawks. Way too many injuries for the 49ers, I think, helps this team to really push for the playoffs. Dunlap did a pretty good job on Sunday. He was a great addition to the defense, but they still are going to give up 400, 500 yards a game. That's just, mark that in the books as well. Next up, a team that was in the Super Bowl last year but will most definitely be at home this year. The 49ers just can't stay healthy enough to make a run at it. They can't. I mean, when George Kittle's out 8 weeks, when Jimmy Garoppolo is indefinite, when you have running backs that Telvin Coleman that can't stay onto a field, Raheem Mostert that can't stay onto a field, there's nothing you can do. Brandon Ayuk, who can't stay onto a field. I mean, this man is, as a rookie, I don't know if it's just the injury bug out there or what it is, but when you have rookies just getting hurt left and right, when you have the young guys getting hurt left and right with hamstring, I mean, you need to get a new trainer. You need to get a new something out in San Francisco. Like, this is just bad. Too many injuries will prevent them from going to the playoffs, even with the positive upswing in offense replacing Jimmy Garoppolo. I still don't see them being able to make a push. This division is way too hard for a San Francisco 49ers team to make a push. Vacation, a.k.a. the hospital for this team. Yeah, we've got the Green Bay Packers next. I mean, here's the deal with the Green Bay Packers. They're going to be in the playoffs as long as Aaron Rodgers is healthy, but it's going to be close. And like I said, this Bears matchup gets interesting with the Green Bay Packers if Mitchell Trubisky comes back, because Nick Foles doesn't have the leg talent, doesn't have the scrambling talent to really make defenses stay honest. So if Mitchell Trubisky comes back, this is going to be close for the division title. They've lost 2 out of their last 4 games, which has pulled them a lot closer to the Chicago Bears than I'm sure they wanted to be. Green Bay at 6-2 right now, Chicago at 5-4. Chicago's got a little bit easier schedule coming up. I think we can completely say that the Vikings, even though the Vikings recently beat them, and the Detroit Lions are probably not going to be making enough noise to make it difficult on the Bears and or Packers to win this division. So this is going to be a lock as long as Aaron Rodgers is healthy. Aaron Rodgers in that offense seems to be hit and miss for the last couple weeks. We've had a couple 400-yard performances games, and then we've had a couple 180-yard to 200-yard game and a couple interception games from Aaron Rodgers. So I fully expect this team to be atop this division and win this division and make the playoffs. But Aaron Rodgers has got to play better. This defense has got to be put into a better position. I mean, they're being put with their backs against the wall, asked to win games the last couple weeks because Aaron Rodgers and that offense cannot get off to a better start. So all that being said, I still think that this is an instant lock staycation for the Green Bay Packers. And now, the saddest / worst / most depressing division in all of football. The Philadelphia Eagles are going to be first place in the NFC East when it's all said and done. At 3-4-1, not only do they have great control over this division, but the closest competition I think you're going to have is now the Alex Smith-led Washington football team. The WTFers, I think, are going to be the next closest. Everybody else in this division is just so pathetically sad and bad. I don't even know what else to say about this division. The Eagles would be way far away from a wild card spot if the Dallas Cowboys would have kept, I think, Dak Prescott healthy and all these other guys would have stayed healthy. If they would have kept their crap together even after Dak Prescott went down and not allowed Andy Dalton to get hurt, I would have think that they would have made this a little bit closer. But as of right now, and like I said, I've got to call it as of right now, because that is what I've got to do, the Philadelphia Eagles are going to make the playoffs. It's very, I have a couple of fans that are big Eagles fans, and I know that they're going to be excited that I'm saying this, but guys, it's sad. It's super sad. This is like, I don't even know really what to compare this to. This is just sad. A horrible football team. They're going to get knocked out in the first matchup of the playoffs. But I still think the Philadelphia Eagles are going to squeeze their way. They're going to soar into a playoff spot because their division is so bad. Another team that I think we can always guarantee will be in the playoffs, or not necessarily another team, but another player, is Tom Brady. See, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are only at a 6-3 record right now, which is second placed in the NFC South. Tom Brady had a horrible showing. That defense had a horrible showing. It was just, I think that's a game that they'll always forget, the 38-3 loss to the New Orleans Saints. But this is almost a lock every year that Tom Brady is going to pull a playoff spot out of his old, decrepit ass. Okay, Tom Brady's going to be in the playoffs. This is not close. This is not up for debate. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to be just fine. They're going to be in the playoffs. You're going to see Tom Brady make a lot of noise, and they are going to make a serious run at not only at the playoffs, but at the Super Bowl. They are going to make a deep playoff run if they can continually fire on all cylinders, and a lot of that's going to be because of a Tom Brady-led team. And we saw a little bit of hiccups here and there, but at the end of the day, this is a staycation all the way. I don't think you can even remotely say that there's a vacation spot for this team. Let's look at another team in contention, the Minnesota Vikings. I think this is going to be a lock at a vacation spot. Here's the deal. The Vikings can make things very interesting. They are 3-5 right now, so they would have a lot of ground to make up. And if there's two people that can do it, it's Dalvin Cook and Madison, because those guys are freaks of nature in the backfield. Dalvin Cook has had 2 historic weeks back-to-back. But at the end of the day, when good old Kirk Cousins is going to be throwing the football when you need him to, I just don't see him propelling this team into the playoffs. It's going to be too tough of a task to ask them to not only beat the Bears out for that second spot, but to try and tackle a Green Bay Packers team more than once throughout the entire year. The Packers had them in the week opening, commonly known as the first week of football, good grief, opening week. But the Vikings got back at them, but at the end of the day, they just don't have enough on the offensive side of the football and defensive side of the football to really make a push towards the playoff. I think you can guarantee this one as a vacation spot for good old Kirk Cousins and Dalvin Cook. Another team that I think is going to make the playoffs this year, and a team that not a lot of people thought we were going to be talking about, but the Arizona Cardinals. They're 5-3, second in the NFC West, and if they would have won their game against the Miami Dolphins, they would have been first place over the Seattle Seahawks because they have the matchup game against them. I like Kyler Murray in this offense. I like the Cardinals' defense. Now, the Cardinals' defense has lost a lot of players, but Budda Baker is a monster. He is playing out of his mind this year. We really miss seeing Chandler out there. But even without their star, Chandler Jones, they just seem to continually find ways to stop people, give the ball to Kyler Murray and that explosive offense. DeAndre Hopkins has been top-notch this year. Even though their running backs have been atrocious, Edmonds really came on and seemed to have a pretty decent game. I think you're going to see him get a lot more touches in the backfield. Christian Kirk, you have a bunch of guys like that are filling in nicely. Kyler Murray is the real freaking deal. I have said that he has some of the most dynamic legs in all of football. He is right up there with Lamar Jackson, in my opinion. So I think this team finally gets it done and makes it into the playoffs. I don't think they're going to stay long in the playoffs, but staycation for now, not vacation. Right now, the only other team in playoff contention is going to be the Detroit Lions. But same thing, like I've said, they are tied right now with the Minnesota Vikings. I guarantee you that when they match up and there's a healthy Matthew Stafford, that they might make a little run towards the end. But like I said, I just don't see them being able to overtake that spot right now. I just don't see them being able to really challenge the Bears or the Packers right now and try and get into the playoffs. With inconsistency at Matthew Stafford's health and in the backfield for them, DeAndre Swift, Adrian Peterson just seem to one weekend have a combined 140 yards and then the next weekend have a combined 30. And when you have that much inconsistency in your backfield to not help Matthew Stafford, who's been injured and sick and in and out of the lineup, their defense is playing way too much. I just don't see the Detroit Lions really being able to have a strong enough season to push for a playoff spot. Vacation for the Detroit Lions, and if there's ever a place you want to leave, it's probably Detroit. And don't sweat it too much because you're on your way to a vacation sooner rather than later. Let's run through the rest of the division real quick. The Atlanta Falcons, vacation. Carolina Panthers. While they are very interesting, the Carolina Panthers, they just aren't getting it done in the close game situations. At 3-6, I don't foresee the Carolina Panthers jumping up enough spots to really make a playoff push. even though that's a team that I honestly really like a lot. The Washington football team right now, I've got them at vacation at 2-6, but if there's ever a team that could make a run in a horrible division, this could definitely be the team. Dallas Cowboys vacation and the New York Giants vacation. So basically that entire division is on their way for a nice long vacation. But there you have it. Those are my vacation staycation teams as of right now. Now I do realize a lot of these things can change based on their play, but as of right now, those are my locks for the playoffs. Those are my teams that are in contention but are probably on their way for vacation. Let me know what you think. Love to hear from you. I love getting everybody's opinions. How is your team doing so far? Let me know in the comments below. Now let's stop talking about football and move on to something pretty awesome, which is the NBA trade deadline. Okay, it's no secret that the NBA trade deadline and trade opening has been moved around because of the late end of the season. We now have an official start date for the next NBA season, which is the most perfect date, December 22nd. Like I said, basketball should start on Christmas. So I'm super happy that they've got that figured out. But we've got a list here of 10 possible trades that are being talked about right now in the NBA. Now, this is not just from a news source or just from somebody that's writing into a magazine. These are trades that have been talked about from owner to player. And we're going to start at 10 and just kind of work our way down. Number 10, the Dallas Mavericks trying to acquire Rudy Gobert. So not only were the Dallas Mavericks historically an incredible offense last year, they were not bad at defense. They were 17th in defensive percentage, and they were exposed in the playoffs, especially on the rebounding side when Kristaps Porzingis went down. So when Kristaps Porzingis was healthy, they had good rebounding. They had not only good defensive playmakers, but they had guys like Seth Curry who really came on, Powell who really came on, DeLon Wright, that really came on towards the end. So the problem is do you want to shake that up and try and get rid of maybe a Seth Curry or a Powell and get Rudy Gobert? This one's tough for me because Rudy Gobert does have a lot of positives that he brings, especially defensively, two-time Defensive Player of the Year. He's got good rebounding skills. I think offensively he would stymie their offense a lot, especially since they like to weave in and out and move. He's not that kind of guy. So this talk for the Dallas Mavericks, I'm not a big fan of it. I don't believe the Utah Jazz are going to want one of your smaller guards since they've already got so many guards on their roster. So it depends what they're trying to get and what you're willing to give up. If you can get them for the right price, if you can get them for a first-round pick and hang on to your players, I say yes. If not, I say you don't bring him in. Maybe go look at a dynamic guard or a Serge Ibaka, somebody that you're not going to have to give up a whole lot of money for because he's a free agent. You won't have to trade for him. He makes a very interesting play for me. He's a dynamic playmaking big man. He would fit nicely with Kristaps Porzingis. The next trade acquisition that has been talked about is Kevin Love to the Portland Trail Blazers. Now, Kevin Love is due about $30 million from the Cleveland Cavaliers, so he does not have a very trade-friendly aspect to him. I do believe that people are trying to get him out of Cleveland. Inside sources have said that. Brian Windhorst, somebody who has covered Cleveland for a long time, said that the team is looking to get rid of Kevin Love. Kevin Love's 31 years old. I believe that if he went to Portland, they could re-sign Carmelo Anthony for a pretty cheap deal. They would be able to maintain just about everybody. If you get rid of Trevor Ariza, maybe you could get rid of Trevor Ariza straight up for Kevin Love. Maybe you could just give up a second rounder and Trevor Ariza for Kevin Love. If you can get Kevin Love cheap enough, this is a pretty decent pickup for the Portland Trail Blazers. If you can get Love for the right price, him, CJ McCollum, Damian Lillard, Yusuf Nurkic, I think that team is on the right track there. I still don't have any confidence that they can guard a LeBron James or Anthony Davis, and that's the big problem with the West right now is who do you have to guard those guys, which is really how you have to build your team. Even the Clippers had somebody guard LeBron, but nobody to guard Anthony Davis, and we saw that play out the last time they played when the Anthony Davis just took it over. But that would be a much better step for this Portland Trail Blazers team. I think you would get a little bit more consistency. You would allow CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard to be able to relax a little bit more and open up a little bit more. Not mad at this trade if it's for the right price. Now, this one's been talked about a lot recently. Derrick Rose to return to the Chicago Bulls. Bad idea. Don't do it if you're Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose, at this point in his career, needs to be able to go to a championship contending team. I think Derrick Rose might join forces with the Los Angeles Lakers and really make a push. If Rajon Rondo's out like they've been saying, I think Derrick Rose would fit nicely with the Los Angeles Lakers. I think Derrick Rose would get his shot at a championship and would probably win it with the Los Angeles Lakers. This is not a good trade for either side. Derrick Rose, even though he's not due a whole lot of money, Chicago really has no value in putting their guys on the bench that are the young guys. The one kid from North Carolina, if I can remember his name, I think it's Colby Covington. Guys like that need the experience, need to be in the starting lineup. Even though Derrick Rose would be a nice asset for him and LaVine, there's just not enough there for it to be worth Derrick Rose going back. I think Derrick Rose might make this move, like I said, to a Los Angeles Lakers, and I think the Lakers could get him for a pretty decent price. So I'm not too thrilled with this trade that's been offered so far. The Philadelphia 76ers have also talked about trying to get Devin Booker. Now, in order for this to be viable, you would have to keep Ben Simmons, you would have to keep Joel Embiid in order for this to be not necessarily a big three, but for it to work at all. Because Ben Simmons is so inconsistent with shooting the basketball, you would need to keep Ben Simmons primarily for the defensive side of the point guard duties. Keep Ben Simmons, keep Joel Embiid, who when he stays freaking healthy is one of the best players in the NBA, and add a Devin Booker. Now the problem with that is, are the Phoenix Suns willing to give away Devin Booker, and how much are they going to want? And that's the big question for the 76ers. I love this trade for the 76ers because they are in win-now mode. They are not trying to sit back and rebuild. And if that's the case, you've got to go get a guy like a Devin Booker. But the 76ers are going to have to convince the Phoenix Suns to take on Al Horford's horrendous contract. He is owed way too much money. Most of it's guaranteed. So are the Phoenix Suns willing to get rid of Booker and take on a horrible contract in Al Horford and a lot of future picks? Here's the deal. The 76ers have 4 first-rounders, 11 second-rounders in the next 2 drafts. So that means that they do have a lot of room and a lot of picks that they can send out to other teams in order to acquire them, but they are also going to have to get rid of Al Horford in order to replace his contract with Devin Booker. So if the 76ers can get this one done, this is a great trade. This is a great trade for the 76ers, not a great trade for the Phoenix Suns. I don't believe this gets done, though. Here's the deal. The Phoenix Suns started to catch on fire towards the end of the year. They're going to have another high draft pick. Who are they going to add in free agency is the big question. Do they bring in a guy like Serge Ibaka? Who do they bring in? I don't know, but I would not do this if I'm the Phoenix Suns because of the bright spot that you had in the NBA bubble. Devin Booker's coming into his own. He is a monster. But this does make sense for the 76ers to try and push for a guy like Devin Booker. Another trade that has been talked about for the Miami Heat is, and they've got a couple of them here actually, Donovan Mitchell to the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat would definitely have to give up a whole lot to get Donovan Mitchell. But Donovan Mitchell would be a Dwayne Wade-like guy for Jimmy Butler. He would be a dynamic scorer, a guy who can handle the basketball, a guy who would play very nicely with a Jimmy Butler. The Heat can also trade a combination of Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, Kendrick Nunn, Kelly Olynyk. They've got options to really trade for this as well. They would have the cap space. If you had Mitchell, Butler, Bam Adebayo, they would have a very dynamic offense. Another trade that's been talked about is Giannis Antetokounmpo down to the Miami Heat. There's so many trade talks with Miami right now, not only because they're so good at it, at getting these trades, but because the Heat were not only in the championship, but were right there in order to win it if they had one more piece. I said that at the beginning of my talk, that if the Miami Heat had one more piece on the offensive side of the basketball, they would have won the NBA championship, or they would have made a harder case for the Los Angeles Lakers to have won the championship. So here's the deal. Out of those 2 trades, Donovan Mitchell probably would be the more likely and would make the most sense to fit with what the Miami Heat have now, especially cap-wise. He would be a lot better off. Giannis would be your guaranteed. If you have a choice to get Giannis, you go get Giannis. It's like a LeBron or an AD or a Kawhi. You have a chance to get one of those once-in-a-generational type guys, you go get them. But if Giannis goes down to the Miami Heat, what are they going to have to give up? And that's the real question there is it valuable enough for Giannis to go there if you're having to give up your Duncan Robinsons and Tyler Heroes and Kendrick Nunns and Kelly Olynyk's in holes? And meaning, like, are you going to have to do Tyler Hero, Kelly Olynyk, and Kendrick Nunn all gone just to bring in Giannis? Probably. So are you willing to make that sacrifice? Are you confident enough that your team can really carry it offensively? Because we have seen Jimmy Butler and Giannis both need guys that can shoot the basketball in order to really win. But I like either one of those trades for Miami. I think that makes them, it's going to make them still up top the East like they were last year and another championship contender. Another big trade talk has been Chris Paul to the New York Knicks. That's not going to happen. That actually, as I was doing my research and doing this, Chris Paul has already said that he will not be going to the New York Knicks. He has no interest. And the New York Knicks said that if they don't want to trade Chris Paul to the Knicks, then they don't want him either. So I think that one's going to be null and void at the end of the day. I do believe Chris Paul might make an offseason move and might be traded somewhere, but it is not going to be the New York Knicks, as they basically said hell no to that one. The Boston Celtics are interested in Joel Embiid. Listen, here's the deal with Joel Embiid. He's injured way too much to put all your money into the middle of the table. And that's the problem with the Boston Celtics, is they don't want to take that chance. We've heard from their front office that they're very interested in getting Joel Embiid. They're very interested in making a push because we see the Boston Celtics really struggle without having a big man that can rebound consistently. It's great that you have dynamic playmakers, but then you ask yourself, is it going to be worth getting rid of Jayon Brown, getting rid of Kemba Walker, getting rid of some of your other dynamic players just to sign a massive contract for a player who's never healthy? I don't like this trade for the Boston Celtics. Not necessarily that I don't like this trade, because Joel Embiid with Boston would be an incredible matchup, because that would give them not only size but dynamic scoring all the way around the perimeter. I just don't think that this is going to get done for the simple fact that they are asking way too much for a guy who's injured way too much. This was actually disputed yesterday as well. Bradley Beal said he refuses to leave Washington. He is not going anywhere in his open market mindset. So he is saying that he's locked into Washington. Washington's saying that they're not looking to get rid of him. But the Brooklyn Nets have talked about trying to get Bradley Beal. Here's the deal with Bradley Beal going to Brooklyn. Brooklyn would have to give up a massive amount to get Bradley Beal. And what makes Brooklyn so interesting for this upcoming playoff is the Spencer Dinwiddies, the Jared Allens, and the array of players, the Richardsons, of guys that can just score off of assists. They have catch-and-shoot guys. They have guys that can create their own shots as well. They're just such a dynamic team, not only defensively, with Allen just being a rebounding machine, but now adding Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, adding somebody like a Bradley Beal, someone who wants a lot of touches, someone who's going to want to handle the ball. I just don't see that working with having a Kyrie Irving-led offense and Kevin Durant-led offense. This doesn't work for me. It doesn't work, I think, for the Brooklyn Nets. And the Washington Wizards have already said that's not going to happen. So I'm not a big fan of this, and I don't think it's going to happen either. I think Bradley Beal would be much better off going to a Los Angeles Lakers than he ever would a Brooklyn Nets. We've got two more here, the big trade talks. Los Angeles Lakers, coincidentally, looking for Zach LaVine in the trading block. Now, Zach LaVine has already said he wants out of Chicago. He's tired of losing. He is a great landing spot for the Los Angeles Lakers. He's a good defender. He can score. He's got leaps. He's a deep threat. He can put the ball in the bucket from the three-point line. I think Kyle Kuzma would be a fair straight-up trade in all honesty. But they're probably going to want Kyle Kuzma and Danny Green, probably a combination. Kyle Kuzma, Quinn Cook. They've got a lot of guys that they can really move around here. Avery Bradley, Alex Caruso, if I'm the Lakers, I'm not moving off of them. LaVine really doesn't make a whole lot of money, so he's not going to cost a whole lot to sign. But there's some pieces that the Lakers can move that would make this a very valuable option for the Lakers to go out and get. I'm all for this trade, and especially for the defensive side of what Zach LaVine would bring to them. Lastly, the Golden State Warriors are interested in Giannis Antetokounmpo. This isn't going to happen. It won't happen. If it does, I will never watch basketball. That's all I'm going to say about this. I'm done. I'm done with the Golden State Warriors just going out and buying Kevin Durant and Giannis. Like, no, I'm good. I'm done with this crap. So let's move on. I don't want to even talk about it because it upsets me so much. If he goes to the Golden State Warriors, they're going to go to the championship for the next 5 years. It's not even close. I don't want to talk about it because it upsets me that much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Our NFL vacationers or staycationers, and then, of course, our NBA trade deadline breakouts. Those are the top 10 trending trades thus far this year. So I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure if you like us, join us on all of our social media and share us with a friend. That means more to us than anything. We appreciate you all listening. We appreciate the amount of love our last episode got, our highest listened to episode ever. We're getting better and better, and it's all because of you all at home. So thank you all for everything you do for us. Thank you, Locker Room Faithful. Share us with a friend. We'll see you in the next one. I'm Jacob Courtwright, and this is The Locker Room.